So guys, one of the biggest questions I get, one of the most common questions I get is, when did you realize you have this special memory ability that other people don't have, or not a lot of people have? And because people see me, they'll see I have won the USA Memory Championship twice. I set the record for the fastest to memorize a deck of cards in the United States in 2009, and I held that record for 2 years. I held the record for the longest number memorized in 5 minutes in the United States. I memorized a 167-digit number. In 2012, I memorized everybody who died in the war in Afghanistan in the order of their death. There's 2,400 people. I memorized their rank, their first name, their last name. It's 7,000 words I memorized in sequence. And when people see me memorize that wall, they see me memorize a deck of cards or a string of numbers, the first question they ask me is, when did you realize you had this special ability? And I don't have a special ability. My memory is the same as everybody else's. The only difference is I learned a system. I'll tell you what happened. Hang with me for 1 second. Okay guys, so this is where it all started. I was a telemarketer making phone calls for a company called Metroplex Chimney Sweeps 28 years ago, right behind that door over there. Every day I'd get a phone call. I would dial the phone. Hey, can we come out there and clean your chimney? No, bang. Hey, can we come out there and clean your chimney? No, bang. They would hang up. One day, in that office right there, I was dialing the phone and I called somebody and I said, hey, can we come out there and can we clean your chimney? And he said, you know what? We don't want our chimney cleaned. We're trying to sell our house. And I said, well, if you're trying to sell your house, you should have a clean chimney. He laughed. He said, I don't know about that. He said, but I do need a good telemarketer. Do you want to go to work for me? I sell memory training seminars. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. And I started taking down his information, and my sales manager was like, hey, did you just make a sale? I'm like, no, I got a new job. And I went to meet him the very next day. He worked for a company called Memory Training Institute. Think about this for a minute. What are the odds? I was an 18-year-old kid in that office right there, just making phone calls, random phone numbers. I tore a page out of a phone book. I could have torn any page out of that phone book, but I tore the right page out of the phone book. And that number that I called, it wasn't even his house. It was his girlfriend's house, and he was just visiting her. But he offered me a job over the phone for a memory training company as a telemarketer, and he had an office in Dallas. Let's drive to that office in Dallas, and I'll tell you the story on the way over there. So I was so excited driving over there because this was 1991, and in the 1980s, there was a guy named Kevin Trudeau, and Kevin Trudeau had a course on an infomercial. It was called Mega Memory, and it was so popular in the 80s and early 90s. It was so popular that me and my friend Jason, we decided to put our money together and buy the course. We got our money together, and then as teenagers do, we never ended up buying the course. But I remembered that infomercial. It was so famous at the time. And there was a guy on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson named Harry Lorraine in the 80s, and I had seen him memorizing people's names in the audience. So I had already been fascinated by memory, but I had no idea on how to do the tricks. The company was called Memory Training Institute. They were based out of Portland, Connecticut. Blaine Athorn was the CEO. Now, an interesting thing about this, the guy who had that infomercial, Kevin Trudeau, this was actually his company. I never got to meet Kevin Trudeau, though, because he was in prison for credit card fraud. Matter of fact, I hate to say it, but he's back in prison now, 28 years later, for something different. So the system that Kevin Trudeau taught was a good system, but Kevin could not resist the urge to make a little extra money and do it dishonestly, and that was the unfortunate thing. But I drove to Dallas, and let me show you that Kevin Trudeau's office, where I went to work and what I did there. So this is it. This is the building I went to work for in 28 years ago. I'll never forget walking in that office, and I just wanted to work for them so bad. I had been fascinated by memory training, but here I was, this 18-year-old kid in that office. I would sit there at the desk and I would just make 80 calls a day, and I would just try to convince these companies that having a better memory would be good for their employees. And at this point, I really didn't know a lot about memory. I worked for them for about maybe 6 weeks, and then they wanted me to attend my first memory training workshop. My first memory training workshop I attended in August of 1991. I'm going to drive there right now, and I'm going to show you the hotel. Let's go over there. So this is crazy. This hotel right now is going under massive constructions and renovations, and this is where I learned the memory seminar, in this room right now that is under construction. So this looks so different, clearly. There's no conference room here anymore. I don't think the hotel wants me up here. I kind of snuck up here. So this hotel I walked into in 1991. 28 years ago, I walked into that classroom and there was 200 people in that class. And I think a lot of them did better than I did. They gave us a test to see how good our memories were, and they gave us a list of 20 words. And I think out of that 20 words, I remember 3, and they were the first 3, and I think I cheated on the third one. So they kind of just walked us through the levels of memory training. And then they really got into the nuts and bolts of it. And that's the Mind Palace method, where they had us draw a map on a sheet of paper of our house. And at the time I lived at my mom's house, I was 18 years old, so I drew a map of my mom's house and I mapped out furniture. But the Mind Palace is really what changed my life as far as memory goes. But it changed my life in a lot of ways. But the Mind Palace, where you draw a map of your house and you number pieces of furniture, is something I learned in this building. In this hotel is where I learned it 28 years ago. I drew a map of my mom's house. Let me drive across town now and I'm going to show you my mom's house. Okay guys, so this is it. This is the house that I lived in when I was 18 years old. It's my mom's house. So after I attended that workshop, I came back here and I was so excited about what I just learned. I drew a map of the house and then I numbered pieces of furniture. And then I walked through this house just over and over and over again, numbering pieces of furniture. And then I was so excited. I had learned this and I'm like, I wanted to show my mom, I wanted to show my sister. So I printed out a poem by Ralph Waldo Emerson on success. And then I memorized this poem. And then I remember walking in the living room and I was like, Mom, listen to this. I just memorized this poem. And I told the Ralph Waldo Emerson poem. And this is the house where I first learned the memory system. And then I just began to practice it and practice it and practice it. So that was my mom's house. So that's really the origins of where I really started practicing this system. And it all comes down to, I really just memorized a map of her house. And I fell in love with it then. I just started memorizing all sorts of things and games, and it became fun to me. And I was a telemarketer working for this company, setting appointments for memory speakers to go out there. And the key to this system, how I really got better at it, was my manager, Jerry Gross. I went to him one day and I'm like, Jerry, I'm really having trouble with names. What's a picture for the name Albert? And he said, that poor burnt owl, like A-O-W-L, owl. In other words, the name Al was an owl and Albert was a burnt owl. And so that's what I started doing. Just every single day that I met somebody, I started turning their name into a picture. I mean, everybody. That's the secret, guys. That's how I really developed this crazy good memory, is I started creating pictures for things. Mainly two primary things. I started turning every single person's name I met into a picture. The next thing that I did is I fell in love with turning numbers into pictures. Every 2-digit number I created a picture for. So I would drive down the road and I would see license plates, and I would always be trying to turn the license plates into pictures. That's really where my memory took a huge increase. And that's what I would encourage you to do. Start turning things into pictures. A little bit after that, after I started really getting good at it, I was 19 years old. And when I was 19 years old, I went to my manager and I said, I've been a telemarketer for a year now. I want to be a speaker. He said, all right, Ron, let's do this. I was 19 years old. All the other speakers were in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. I'll never forget that day. I called up the company. It was Summit Press in Fort Worth. I called up the company and I said, hey, my name is Ron. I'm the memory expert. I'm your speaker for your sales meeting this morning. And he said, Ron, I got 7 salespeople and 2 of them are sick. We're only going to have 5 people here today. Should we just reschedule the meeting? I said, no, let's go ahead and do the meeting today. I'll be out there. I hung up the phone and I drove out to that office, and I'm going to drive you there right now. I'm going to drive you by that office. My first speech ever. Wow, so this is crazy. This right here is the building where I gave my first memory training speech. We can't even really, it's almost there's construction all around here now. I can't, this building's not gonna be here maybe this much longer. Man, so I was 19 years old and I remember walking into this office. There was 5 salesmen in the room. And a lot of people will say to me, Ron, I'm so bad with names. How do you get good at remembering names? Well, listen to this. I walked in that office, and right there where that lamp is, you can kind of see it in that room right there. That's the room where I gave my first speech. And I was nervous. I was so scared kid. And there was 5 guys in the room. And I only asked 3 of them their name, because I didn't think I could remember all 5 names. And I ended up selling them that day tickets to a memory workshop. So here's the secret. Here is the secret I'm hoping that you're getting at. I wasn't born with a great memory. I developed a great memory because it was important to me. Recently, last year at the USA Memory Championship, I memorized 155 names in 15 minutes. I went from that, doing 3 names in 30 minutes, to 155 names in 15 minutes. The answer is practice. Let's head back to my house now. We're gonna finish up this video and I'm gonna kind of tell you the rest of the story. So guys, that's the story. I gave my first speech, and then I just started doing that, going around and speaking for companies at their weekly sales meetings. Prior to Afghanistan, I had turned every picture from 1 to 100 into a picture. During my deployment to Afghanistan, I turned every 3-digit number into a picture, 100 to 999. So I really used that time to perfect my skills. And I would say when I came back from Afghanistan in 2008 is when I really claimed the title of memory expert. The message I want you to get is I was not born with a special ability. You have the same ability I have. I just worked at it. So that is my story. If you would like to get some more tips or some more advice on how to improve your memory, click the link down below. I have a free gift for you that gives you more memory tips, and I also have some other videos in this description. But guys, that's the story. Confessions of a Memory Expert. How I became a memory expert, and it's not a gift. I developed the skill of being a memory expert because I worked at it, and you can work at it too. I'll see you on the next video. Give me a like if you enjoyed this video. We always appreciate it if you subscribe and click the link down below. Okay.